Welcome to the Game and Party channel. I'm Mike Davis.
And I'm Jesse.
And in this video, we're going to talk about our top 10 party games of all time. Let's get started. All right, my number 10 party game of all time is Detective Club. I have it right here. This is actually, it comes in a metal tin. Got this at Barnes & Noble. I'm not a big fan of metal tins for games. I like boxes myself, but it's called Detective Club. We played this at Dice Tower, and we had a blast playing it. It comes with these cards. These are very similar to the Dixit cards, very weird, odd artwork that are on the cards. And you also get these pads of paper. These lot comes with a bunch of little notepads, which is pretty cool. The components in the game are great. It comes with lots of good stuff, including these nice, chunky magnifying glasses. They're wooden, which is awesome. And basically in the game, what you're trying to do is you're trying to fool everybody if you don't know the word. So if someone is the leader of the round, they write down a word on each one of those pads of paper, the same word. So let's say you write down the word, whatever, sharp or whatever, and you pass out the papers to everybody. And everybody gets the word sharp except one person. One person gets a blank pad. What you don't want to do is say, hey, mine's blank, because that kind of ruins the game for everybody. So you pick up your pad, yours is blank, you don't know the word. And now you've got to start playing these Dixit-like cards from your hand in front of you. So you play, starting with whoever is to the left of the dealer, you play one card down, and then it goes around, and then it comes back around, and you play a second card in front of you. And there's no talking during this part of the game. You're just playing cards in front of you. Once everybody has two cards in front of them in the game, now we go back around the table and everybody explains why they played the cards they played. This is the funniest part of the game, and this is what makes the game great. Is if you are, say you had bad cards in your hand, just didn't have a really good set of cards in your hand, you're going to have to try to come up with the reasons of why you played those cards. If not, people are going to pick you as the faker. They're going to say that you were the one that didn't know the word. So you have to come up with good reasons of why your cards were played, even if you picked the best one you had at the time. And if you're the one who didn't know the word, you're watching everybody else's cards around the table trying to figure out the word, but of course you don't want to just stare at everybody's cards, so you've got to glance around the table and look at cards and then pick one from your hand that kind of goes with it. It's hilarious because when it comes back around to you, if you've played something that is completely different, like say the word was sharp and you played a bunch of clouds, people are like, why did you play clouds? It has nothing to do with sharp. But then you got to make up an excuse. You say, well, lightning strikes things that's sharp, it could be whatever. You just got to make up reasons for why that would be the card. That's the funniest part of the game, is listening to some of these excuses that people do. And it's great because you don't know who the faker is until at the end when everybody reveals the words over. But everybody votes. Everybody throws their magnifying glass on someone who they think the faker is. If the faker gets, I think, one or two magnifying glasses, they don't get points. If they don't, they get points. The person who wrote the word to hand to everybody, if the faker gets away with it, they get points. So that incentivizes them to write the most simple, easy word. You're not going to write some crazy word down like, onomatopoeia or something like that. You're going to write something pretty easy because you want the faker to try to get away with it because you want points too.
Right.
It is hilarious. I love it. The only thing I could say negative about the game is if you got to play with the right people. If you're going around the table and people are just going, oh, I didn't have any good cards, so I played, and that's all they say, it kind of kills the game. So you had to have people who are willing and wanting to describe their cards and say why they played those cards. It is hilarious when you get a good explanation, and it's even better when someone is not the faker and they give an explanation. Everybody's like, that is the lamest excuse I've ever heard for playing a card. Why would you're dim, and everybody starts throwing microscopes on them or magnifying glasses on them before they even get around the table.
Although it does happen, though.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It does happen
absolutely.
that you get a bad hand.
Yep.
And you have no choice.
Yep.
I
think one of the house rules, and I've been thinking about this, we should implement is you're not allowed to say, well, I didn't have any good cards. It's like you can't just say that because everybody can say that. And that happened one time we played this. Like, I went around the table and just everybody said, I didn't have any good cards. And they're like, that kind of kills the game.
Yeah, I can see that if everybody.
Yeah, so if everybody's doing that, it kind of kills it. But if you implement the house rule, which I want to implement, is you're not allowed to say, I didn't have any good cards. You have to actually give an excuse for why you played the card you did. Then the game's hilarious and a lot of fun. And you can be everybody will put all their magnifying glasses on one person, like, oh, they're like, it wasn't me. And then you turn the books over and you're like, oh, well, we were all wrong. Yep. The person that played cards just happened to get a really good set of cards and played the right cards and had good excuses for them. I've heard people give excuses like the cloud one earlier, and like the cloud, and there's like some little kid in the background or a boy like, oh, I'll play it because it's sharp, because he's sharp, he looks intelligent, he's sharp, you know. And they're just pulling it out of their whatever, you know. But yeah, Detective Club, my number 10. Jesse, what's your number 10?
All right, so my number 10 is, I actually opened this already, but it is Nut So Fast.
Fast.
I'll show you this too, because I think this is a cool little insert here. This card's upside down.
Yeah, that's all right.
There we go.
Nice chunky wooden pieces in there.
Yeah, so these are actually really cool.
Let me pull a couple of these out with you.
Yeah.
These are awesome. Ugh.
So these are actually really nice, chunky wooden pieces, which is awesome.
An almond, and you got like a
walnut. You got a cashew.
And it's obviously a mean walnut too. He's very angry for some reason.
You have a cashew.
And a happy cashew.
And then you have your lucky pistachio.
Pistachio nut. There you go. And those are solid wooden pieces too. These are really chunky wooden pieces. Why would they have these big chunky pieces in the game, Jesse?
All right, so this is a game where each player that is playing gets cards in their hand, and they're going to take turns flipping over these cards. If you get a match, for instance, if you get 4 cashews, then everybody has to quickly try to grab the cashews from the middle of the pile. So they're sitting, all the cashews and all the walnuts and the pistachios are all sitting in a pile. Yep. There you go.
Go ahead. You keep talking.
Yeah.
You keep talking.
They're all sitting in a pile, and so everybody has to frantically, as fast as you can, grab the right nut, and then you get that. If you don't get it, you're out, basically. I love this game because it's funny, it's frantic, it's hectic.
Folks, that's okay. There's pictures of nuts on these cards. Trust me.
Yes. I love the name. I think it's a funny name. But I love this game because it's funny and frantic and hectic, and everybody has a really good time laughing at everybody else who doesn't get the nuts.
Yes.
But I will say, the one thing about these nice, chunky wooden pieces is that they hurt your hands when everybody's trying to smack for the best piece and not to be left out. So that is one of the downfalls in the game. But I love it. I always have a great time when I play this with my friends. Mike, you don't like it too much?
Yeah, it's not my favorite. It's not on my top 10 anywhere. But it is. So you turn over the cards, and like basically, if you see 7 of a certain nut, you got to grab a certain nut. If you see 3 or 4 of them, there's different rules in the game about how many nuts you see on the cards. And so when the card comes out, you have to immediately like do the math and figure out like, okay, is there 3, is there 4, and then start reaching for nuts. And everybody's reaching at the same time. And yeah, you'll get your finger jammed sometimes reaching in because everybody's reaching at the same time. So you gotta play it friendly, nice and slow. Grab the nuts. Don't try. No,
it's not gonna. There's no slow gonna happen.
It's not so slow. It's not so fast.
Yeah, exactly. So keyword fast there. So no, but this is one of my favorite games. It's just really fun to play with friends. It's a nice, easy, laid back, not hard to learn party game.
Yep. Yeah, that is. It's not so fast. If you like dexterity grabbing games, that's a fun one to play with your family.
Yep.
All right, now we're on to our number 9 party game of all time, and my number 9 party game is Werewords, not Werewolf, Werewords, and this is basically the game of 20 questions. If you ever played 20 questions before, there's a word that everybody's thinking of. It could be anything, unicorn. And then everyone starts asking questions, trying to narrow it down with yes/no questions. So, is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a thing? Is it imaginary? Is it bigger than a bread box? You know, the typical questions you ask in 20 questions. What makes this a great game is that someone in the group is a werewolf and does not want you to get to the word. It also uses an app, so this is one of the rare games that you actually use an app on your phone, and you have to have the app really for this one. There's another version of this called Insider that's harder to get, that does not require an app. It has a deck of cards, but I love this one. It has some theme music in the app. It makes it thematic. It's great. But basically, one person is the mayor, and the mayor picks a word. Everybody has their eyes closed during that phase. And then the werewolves open their eyes, or werewolf, if there's only one, and they see the word also. And then everybody wakes up, and then you start asking the mayor questions. Hey, is it this or that? And he starts throwing in chips or just basically yes or no. That's all you can do. Yes, no. There's a maybe. There's a oh so close, and then you got it right. Right?
Yes.
And so you're handing out these chips. If you run out of chips, that's the end of the round. Or if you run out of time, and you can change the amount of time in the game based on the level of the players if you want. Typically, it's 5 to 6 minutes. But this is so much fun because you're trying to get that word, and trying to get the word part when you're not the werewolf, when you're a villager, trying to get the word is great. Because you feel like you're just playing 20 questions. It's awesome. When you're the werewolf, it's tough because now you are trying to ask questions to mislead people, but you don't want people to think you're the werewolf.
Right. You don't want it to be too obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then there's one more role in the game, and that's the seer. And this is the toughest role in the game. The seer knows who the werewolf is and knows what the word is and is trying to get everybody to guess it. But the seer just can't come out and say, is it cantaloupe? And you just get the word because the werewolves have a chance to kill the seer afterwards. And
right, even the playing field.
Yes, exactly. So if you're the seer, you can't just be obvious about being the seer. If you're the seer, it's like a whole different game. You were trying to get people to guess it by asking leading questions, but not being obvious. Sometimes the seer role is easy because the team's doing such a great job of getting to it. You can just sit there and say nothing.
You can just ask 1 or 2 questions that after. A lot of times with the seer, if the team's doing well, the nice thing is you can really insert a really technical question where you couldn't in the beginning of the game because there's been enough questions asked already that you might have started to build your case toward that question. Yep. So that's one of the strategies as being the seer. You just want to wait a little while.
And the werewolf is one where you can throw people off. Like if it's a profession, you ask them like, is it a person?
Yeah.
And now the mayor's like, well, it's kind of a person because it's a profession. It's a teacher or whatever, And you're like, is it a person? Yes, it is. Oh, are they famous? Are they this? And you go down this whole path and lead them the wrong direction the whole time. But if your questions sound okay, people will trust you. They think you're just doing a good job asking questions. Anyway, then you get to the end. If you don't get the word right, then the villagers have a chance to figure out who the werewolves are. And if they think, I think this is the werewolf, they point at it. As long as they kill one werewolf at the end, the villagers still win. If they get the word correct, then the werewolves, if there's more than one, turn over their card, and then they have one last chance to pick out who they think the seer is. And the game has a timer for that too. You only have like 1 minute to discuss, and then you got to point to somebody. If you pick the seer, the werewolves win. It's so much fun. It plays in like I said, 5 minutes, 6 minutes or so, depending on what you set the timer to. So you can play this over and over again. If you've got 8 people sitting around wanting to play a party game, this is great. The rules have a couple of variants. You can shuffle the mayor card into everybody's cards and deal it out, and then you get a random mayor each time. We usually don't do that. We usually make each person have a chance to be the mayor, unless they don't want to be. That way everybody gets a chance to be the mayor. The other part of the game that is really interesting is when you give the mayor a roll card. Now this is a variant. So you don't have to do this, but you can actually shuffle up and deal cards to everybody, including the mayor. So the mayor could end up being the werewolf in the game. And so now he has to answer your questions, and he can't be super obvious, just like the regular werewolves. He's got to answer your questions as best he can, but he's got to answer them with like, oh, maybe that's a maybe, and try to throw them off, because at the end they're like, I think the mayor's the werewolf, and and you vote to kill him. It's great. This is one we always laugh. We did a video on it on our channel on YouTube, so go check out our other videos. We did a werewolf playthrough of it. And that's my number 9, Werewords. Jesse, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is banned words.
Oh, and then the box is banned too.
Oh, it is. Dad joke.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I got. All right, so what is banned words? How does that work?
Okay, so banned words is a game. You're better at explaining games. You said I can't do it. So my number 9 is banned words. This is a fun game that you play as 2 teams. The way this game works is you will have a card like this for each team. It has 5 words on it. Yep, it has 5 words on it. And you are going to look at those words from the opposite team point of view, and you're going to want to write down words that you think the other team will say to try to get their team to guess these words on this list. So for example, we have hot tub on here. So if we think they might use water or whirlpool as a clue, or as a clue, giving to their team to try to guess it, then we would want to write those words down. Okay? If they say one of the words that we've written down, then we get a point for that. They get a point. They get, I think, 1 point is 1 point for every word that they get their team to guess correctly on this card.
Yep.
And it's just a fun little game of back and forth and trying to predict what the other person's going to say. So as the clue giver, you have to be really sly in what you're going to say. You know, you don't want to just say, like whirlpool may be a good word to use for a clue giver. They may not have thought to write that down, you know. Yep. But bath, for instance, is probably not going to be a good word to use because people probably wrote that down. So it's a fun little game, thinking outside the box and, you know, looking at the different things that you can write and different ways that you can say it. And everybody gets a turn, which is nice. So the whole team cooperates on writing on these little clue boards here. Yep. And then everybody will get a turn at being the, I guess, clue giver for the team.
Yep.
So
exactly. The interesting thing about this game is you only have 5 words, but the team has, I think, like 12 of these little things to write down on. So potentially, when you're given your clues, you could give the other team 12 points and only get 5 for your team.
Yeah,
or none
that's
for
true.
Your team if you're really bad.
Yeah, that's true.
So you really have to think about how you're going to describe something. Like if you were going to describe a hot tub, you wouldn't say, okay, it's something you sit in, it has water, and it has bubbles, because they're going to use all those words. They're going to use water, they're going to use bubbles. You have to say something like, it's water that's... Or you'd say it's liquid that's not cold, that is moving around, that you are submerged
maybe
in.
It's not a pool, but it's
exactly.
You know, not a shower, but
yeah, exactly. So
you know,
you have to think outside the box.
Right.
You can't use. You have to think of words that that have the same meaning, but would not normally be used.
Right.
But then the other team, they can also do the same thing. They can say, okay, I know he's not going to use the word water, so I'm going to write something else. There are other words that you think you're going to skip over. So. It's a lot of second guessing there on what word you should use, and sometimes you're like, I know the perfect word to say here to get my team to guess this, but I know it's on that card over there, and you're like, oh, I can't say it, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. My favorite part of this game is being the clue giver, because I really feel like when I give the clues and my team gets all 5 words and I hit 0 words on the other side, I feel like I really did a good job of figuring out what to say and figuring out the right words to say. It's so satisfying when that happens. So yeah, this was on my short list. Didn't make my top 10, but it would have been in my top 15. Banned words, lots of fun. There's another game that just came out recently called Trapped Words. That's very similar to this. Also, it's a little more gamey. I would say if you like banned words or games like this, check out Trapped Words also. So there you go. You're number 9, banned words.
Banned words.
All right, we're moving on to number 8 now, and my number 8. This is a little bit of a cheat. It's not actually a board game; it's actually electronic. But there is a board game version of this with the cards. But that is Gestures, and my favorite version of it is Electronic Gestures, which is this one right here. This game is hilarious. It's charades, basically, is all it is. But it is a press your luck version of charades. So what you're going to do basically is you turn it on and it shows you a word on here and you start acting the word out. If your team gets the word right, and you can't talk, of course, you're just doing charades, acting things out. When your team gets it right, you hit the button on top. And it says, okay, you got one. Would you like to go again? You hit the button and now it shows you another word. And you continue acting out, and once your team gets that, hit the button again, that says you got 2 right. Do you want to keep going? And you can keep going or you can stop at any point in time, but you only have 30 seconds to act these words out. So if you are in the middle of acting out a word and the timer goes off, you run out of that 30 seconds, you get 0 points for that round. If you're between words and you stop, say, okay, I'm stopping there, you get all the points that you've gotten for that round. So this is great because your first word may be something easy, like football, like, oh, just a throwing motion. They say, oh, football, got it, boom. You go to the next one. Next one's, running. Just run in place, all right. And then you hit the next one, it's like admiration. How do you act that out?
Yeah.
And now the other 2 points gone out the window. So you have to. It's a pressure luck game. It's great. This is one that you can just pull out. It's super portable, as you can see. It doesn't take a big box, a lot of table space up. We just usually put up a stool in front of us and set it on the stool, and people just start going. It's great. I love this game. We played it with our kids when they were younger. We played it with our friends. We've played it so many times. We've had to replace the batteries in it. In fact, they're old and I think broke. We had to get a new one.
Yeah, I think this has definitely been one of our best family games. I think my kids would agree with that too. It's really fun and easy to do it even with just 4 people, and we'll break off and we'll do that sometimes. And the kids love it. The nice thing too I want to mention with this is, you know, he said you have 30 seconds, has a countdown timer. The nice thing is between each press, you can see how many seconds you have left. So you may say, oh, I've got 10 seconds left. That's plenty of time to go in to do another one. And then you get stuck with admiration. And then you're like, oh, no, I shouldn't have pushed that button.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
exactly.
So.
Yep. So that is my number 8, Electronic Gestures. If you like charades games, I recommend that one. If you don't want to get the electronic version, which is this one's hard to get now, just get the regular basic version. The way that one works is actually there's 5 cards in the top of the slot. There's a timer going, and after so many seconds goes by, a card drops off, and so in seconds another card drops off, and then so you have to get them to get that card, and that one's hilarious because when your team gets it right, you're like, yes, you go to reach for the card, and it drops right.
It's gone.
You're like, oh, and you don't get the point, and you're like. So you really have to have your hand next to it, ready to go when your team gets the word right in that version of it. This is the one I prefer. I like the pressure luck version of this. If your team's behind, say you're behind by 5 points, you can go, you know what, I'm just going for it. I'm just going for it. I'm going to go for 5 points here, and just boom, boom, boom. And when it happens, it feels so good when you hit like 5 or 6 in a row in 30 seconds. It's great. So there you go. My number 8, Electronic Gestures. Jesse, what is your number 8?
My number 8 is Just One.
Yeah, tilt it down just a little bit because the light's glare on it. Sorry. Just One.
Just One. This is a fun activity game, so to speak. It's a nice co-op, yet not so co-op-y game. We are working together trying to find a single word. So the way this game works is you're going to have a card with 5 or 6 words, I don't remember the exact number, of words on it. It's going to be in front of somebody and they can't see the words. Then they're going to say a number, 1 through 6, 1 through 5. And whatever that is, all of us have a little tablet that we're going to write down a word on. It's just a single word to try to give them a clue to what their word is that they picked, okay? The problem is you don't want to be too obvious with it because then other people may put down that same word, and if any words match, you got to put it face down. You don't get to see that word at all. So sometimes you can end up with them only having 1 or 2 words to go off of because people went with what they thought was the most obvious word. So you just want to be careful of that. But this is actually a fun game. We usually don't even keep score. You know, everybody's working together to try to get it in the middle for the team. You know, so it's just a really fun game to bring people together. Nice icebreaker game for a night. It doesn't take long to play through. You can stop whenever you want to stop. If you want to
come and go.
Yeah, exactly. You can come and go.
So people just got to the party, you know. Someone else say, "I'll step out, let you jump in." You know, it's like it doesn't matter because it's more of an activity than it is a game. But yeah, it's great. I love that one too.
It does say on the box 3 to 7 players, but we've actually discovered, because sometimes we have 10 to 12 people that want to play, that you can just get small dry erase tablets and extra dry erase markers, and you can still have a larger number of people play, and so more people can get in on the game, and it's just a really fun game.
Which also makes a bigger potential to have the same word written down multiple times.
Yes,
so when you're playing with 10 people, you'll turn your words around, you're like, oh, I just matched with 4. All right, well, they're all gone. The funniest thing is when you turn all the words around and say there's 4 or 5 of them that match, they all go down, and the person turns around and they look and they have like 1 word or 2 words, and they're like, and then they pull it out. And then they're like, all right, and they pull out a word, it's some English word that ties those 2 words together. What is it? It's great when that happens. The writing of the words down, that's so challenging, because you're like, all right, I want to write this word down. Let's say the word's Hawaii, right? You're like, all right, well, I want to write island. Well, no, somebody else is going to write that for sure. I'm not going to write island. All right, volcano. Oh, no, somebody's going to write that. No, what can I write? Hula. Oh, I know somebody's going to write that too.
Or ocean.
Oh, yeah. You're like, what can I write? What word can I write that describes Hawaii that's, obscure, it's out there, and then you'll come up with some word, whatever, pineapple or whatever. That's it, and then you turn around and 3 other people wrote the word. You're like, I should have went with island. I should have just wrote island. Why did I do that? or tropical or something. You're like, so you second guess yourself, and everybody else is second guessing the same thing. So it's a fun activity. I love Just One too.
Yeah, I think the nice thing too is when you play it with a group of people that you know, you can use inside clues to get them to try to guess it, and it's going to be unique.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about somebody else,
Yep.
coming in and taking your word away from you.
Yep, absolutely. If you know someone else does something in the group and it ties to that word,
Yeah.
you can write their
Yeah.
name down or something like that. It's because it's a co-op that you're all working together and it's more just for fun. You can be loose with the rules,
Yeah,
So,
of course.
lots of fun. Just one. That is your number 8.
It is.
All right, so we're moving on to our number 7 now. My number 7 party game of all time is Muse. Muse is a game where you are given a set of cards that are like the Dixit cards. If you're familiar with the game Dixit, you've got all these weird artwork on the cards, and you can actually use Dixit cards in this game too if you wanted to. And you have another set of cards in the game, and these are cards that have rules on them. So, for example, the rule may say something like, say a word with exactly 6 letters, or name a solid, non-fictional object that floats in water, etc., etc. So there's lots of rule cards in the game. So you're on 2 teams. This is competitive. So you're break up into 2 teams, and on one team you draw 6 of these Dixit cards and 2 of the rule cards, and then you look through them and you find...
They're Muse cards, though.
I'm sorry, Muse cards, yes. The Muse cards, not the Dixit cards. You look through the cards and you find a card, an artwork card that goes with a rule card that you think that there's no way they're going to get their team to guess the right card based on that rule, right?
Make it the most challenging.
Exactly. So, for example, if the rule was you can only say a 3-letter word and you had a card that had an egg on it, you're not going to give them that because they get to say egg, right? So you're looking for something that's hard for them to do. And you put those 2 cards together, you hand them to the Muse on the other team, and that Muse then looks at them, tries to think of what their clue's going to be, hands the card back to you. You shuffle that artwork card up with all the other cards, I think 6 cards total, and then you turn them over for everybody to see. They don't know what the rule is, so they don't know why they said egg or hamburger or whatever it is they said. They don't know why they said that word because they don't know the rule. The rule could be something like you must say something that starts with the letter E, or whatever. And so I'm like, why would he say enormous? Because that's all he could say, And then the team discusses. They look at all the cards and think, I think he was talking about this one. And then they take a little vote. And if they pick the right card, they get the point. If they don't pick the right card, the other team gets the point. This is so much fun, back and forth, seeing people try to figure out ways to get around the rules and say something that's clever to get them to guess the card is great. The other thing, too, is the other team can't see all the other cards. So they got to see that one card, but they didn't see the other 5 cards that were getting handed out. And so they don't know that, maybe the guy's going to, you think, oh, he's definitely going to say, whatever. He's going to say guitar for this one, right? But you had 3 other instruments in the game and the other cards, and so you knew they were going to do that. So you're trying to set them up. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy Muse. It goes back and forth. It is competitive, so but we've played it with 8 people before, and just each person gets a chance to be the Muse, and the game's over. You score 4 or 5 points for each team, and that's pretty much it. It goes by pretty quick. Love the game, Muse. That is my number 7 party game of all time. All right, Jesse, what is your number 7 party game of all time?
My number 7 party game is 2 Rooms and a Boom.
Boom!
All right, I would love this game. So this game is good guy, bad guy kind of game. There's president, there's bomber. And there are going to be 2 teams. There's going to be a blue team and a red team. And depending on what team you're on is who you want to win. So the object of the game is if you're on the blue team, that would be the president's team, then you want the president to stay safe. If you're on the red team, then that's the bomber's team, and you really want the bomber to be in the same room as the president at the end, the final round, because then he blows up the president and the red team wins. So if you're on the red team, you're trying to find out information and maybe bring it back to, or find out who the bomber is, for instance, and bring the information back to other valuable people. Problem is that sometimes, because there are different roles that can be put into the game, such as...
there's a negotiator, there's...
bodyguard.
There's an engineer. The engineer must see the bomber's card to
Yes,
activate it.
yes.
There's a doctor. The doctor must see the president's card to cure him of the poison. So, yeah, there's lots... I think there's 60 different roles in the game that you can put in or something like that. With the expansion, I have the Necrobumicon expansion. So there's so many different roles in the game.
There's the spy, which is
yeah.
a tough one. That's a tough one because it does trick a lot of people. That's basically your card, if you're on red, actually looks blue. And you're the only one that knows unless you show a whole card, which, that's another thing. Showing whole card, you have to agree to show a whole card. You can't be peeking around people and looking around the corner trying to sneak a peek at other people's card. You got to play honestly.
Yeah. And you can show the bottom corner of the card. The blue team has a star down there. Red team has a bomb. So you can show a little. I'll show you the corner of my card. Show the corner of my. You don't want to show the wrong corner. If you show the top corner, then you can show the president's head. Now you're like, you just gave away who you are. So.
Yes.
This is a great game for big groups, right?
Yes.
So this does not make my list, and the reason it didn't make my list is because I moderate this game more than I play it. If you've been to Dice Tower Con, I have moderated it there. I've moderated it at Tantrum Con in South Carolina also, and we had a huge turnout last year at Dice Tower Con in 2019. This year, we had I think 120 people show up for Two Rooms and a Boom. It was insane. So I had 2 copies of the game. The game plays about 30 people in each room, and so we had 2 games going at once. So 60 people playing this game in these 2 rooms. I had so many different roles in the game, and I had to teach it to all these people all at the same time. It was great. We had another 20 people in the hallway waiting to play the next game. The great thing about the game is it plays in 15 minutes. There's 5 rounds. The first round's 5 minutes, then 4, 3, 2, then 1. Hostages are changing rooms between each round. It's great. It's a great, huge group game. You can play with smaller groups, but it's better at a huge group number. I'd say at least 20 people.
And we've actually found that there's a lot of kids that really like this game. I mean, kids as young as 10 and 12 and 14, and they love this game. And it's an interactive game, which is nice, especially if you're a hostage and you get exchanged back and forth, or if you ultimately become the leader of the room and you take a vote. In order to become the leader, you take a vote. So you're being interactive throughout the game with other people in the game. If new people come into your room, even if you don't leave your room, you still get to interact with those new people. Try to find out what color they might be, whose team they're on. See who has the leader in the room at the time. Do you want to overtake the room at the time? So there's a lot of fun aspects that go into this game, and this is one of the reasons it's one of my top 10 games, especially for large groups, because we tend to host some pretty big parties. So it's nice to have a game where you can include everybody, and everybody gets a chance to play a different role, especially if you play it 2 or 3 different times. It's a really fun game to play with a big group.
There you go. So that's Jesse's number 7, 2 Rooms and a Boom. All right, so we're going to start flying through some games now because we got quite a few crossovers on our list. So Jesse, your number 6 and your number 5 and your number 4 are on my list at a higher number. My number 6, what we're on, is not on your list, so I'm going to talk about my number 6 right now, and then we're going to skip a couple of mine, because my number 5 is on Jesse's list higher. So we're going to skip around a little bit, but let's jump right into number 6 party game of all time for me, and that is Decrypto. Now, you could argue that this is not a party game because it is pretty thinky sometimes, but and it's also a bear to teach. It's difficult to teach, but I love it. I'll pull it out at a party if you've got 4 or 5 people at a party who are willing to put their brains to it a little bit. Decrypto is a game where you are going to see 3 words in front of you. 4 words. You're going to see 4 words in front of you that the other team can't see, and the other team has 4 words facing them that they can see. And you don't have to figure out their words. You just have to figure out what the general subject of that word is to decrypt their code, basically. And the way you do that is on their team, let's say there's 3 people on our team, and I'm trying to give the people on my team clues as to which word is the words I mean right now. So I draw a little card that has numbers on it, and let's say it's numbers 2, 3, and 1, right? So now I look at the words that we have, 2, 3, and 1, and I have to give 1 word for each one to try to get my team to guess it. So let's say 2, 3, and 1 is, whatever, it's, a wolf, a house, and, stairs, right? So I may say something like, furry, livable, and up, and they're like, okay, and they write down, they think it's, okay, it's 2, 3, and 1. Great, we got it right. Well, the other team writes down that I said, livable and up and all those other words, right? And they know that. Now, the next round, someone on our team is going to go, they're going to draw another card, and it could be the same card because you shuffle it back in, and now they have different numbers. So it could be 4, 3, and 2. And now they're going to give words again to get their team to guess those. But you don't want to use the exact same words, or you can't use exact same words, but you don't want to use similar words. So like I said, livable for house, you don't want to say domain or something like that, because it's like, oh, well, that's livable, that must be it. So now they're figuring out that whatever that third word is, that must be something to do with a house or a home or something like that, or apartment or whatever. And they're going to, anytime you give a word that has something to do with that, they're going to guess it. So you have to think outside the box. How can I give a word that's going to get my team to guess this without saying the same thing? So a good example of that, playing it once with my friend Matt, the word was leg, and I had written something like knee or brace or something like that, any kind of brace you put on your leg, and he got it. And then when it came into his turn, he wrote turkey for turkey leg. And I was like, oh, that was pretty clever, right? And one of our words in front of us was peacock. And we had written feather or something earlier or whatever, and I was like, oh, turkey leg up. And the other team thought, oh, the turkey must have to go with the feather or the bird one earlier. Yeah. No, it doesn't. It had to go with turkey leg, because the leg was our word. It's when you come up with a clue like that, it feels so good. It feels clever, especially when you can make the clue sound like a different word that's on the board. It's great, so much fun. I will say it is difficult to teach. Every time I sit down and teach this, it's not that hard. I just explained the whole game to you. But every time I sit down to teach this, people go, huh? We're going to do what? What do these numbers mean? What? And I'm like, just forget about it. Let's just play a round. We'll play one round, and by the second round, you got it. You'll be good. All right? And it happens. That happens every time. So just if you can get people to get over the fact that it sounds a little confusing, it's a blast, and it's definitely a thinky game. Not the big happy, run around laughing party game like Werewolf or Tombs and Boom, things like that we've been talking about. But I will pull this out any at a party if I've got 4, because you have to at least 6. I think 6 is like the sweet spot for this, if not 8. 8's really good because you need 2 teams, so you need a bigger group. So that's why I categorize this more in a party game. It's not really a strategy game in that regard. It reminds me of Codenames, and Codenames I would say is a party game, So it reminds me of that.
It's just more of a thinky party game.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So if you're willing to turn your brain on a little bit and play a party game that takes a little bit of thought, that is Decrypto. I highly recommend that. That is my number 6 party game of all time. All right, we are moving right up the list here, folks. We're going to jump right up to my number 4 party game of all time, and that is Deception. Murder in Hong Kong. That is dark looking box here. It can be a little bit of a macabre game, but it is a lot of fun. So basically everybody is around the table. You're all given evidence cards that are put in front of you. Usually 3 or 4 cards depending on how difficult you want to make the game. 3 of those cards are the weapons. 3 of those cards are traces of evidence left behind. And then the investigator knows who the murderer is. So you have everybody close your eyes. The murderer opens their eyes, and they point to one item that's a weapon, and one item that's a evidence left behind. Everybody's dealt a card at the beginning of the game that says whether you're a murderer or whether you're an investigator. And so the murderer picks those 2 things, and then the investigator is given these cards here that say things like, when the crime was in progress, what was going on? Entertainment, relaxation, assembly, trading, visit, or dining. And then they pick one of those items on the card. I just dropped it on the floor. So they pick one of the items on that card. And I have these little cool microscopes that did not come with the original game or expansion. But you basically put this on here. You say, all right, that's the one I'm talking about right there. And you basically put that next to it. And now everybody starts talking and say, oh, he picked fingerprint. Oh, let's see. Oh, he's got gloves, so it can't be that. Or it's, oh, he's got vase. You can touch a vase. You can be that. And everybody starts, talking, including the murderer. The murderer is trying to throw him off. Oh, he said poison, and look, there's mercury. You can get mercury poison. It's got to be that. When clearly in front of him he's got arsenic or something. But he's trying to throw it off and get everybody else to guess someone else. When you think you know who the murderer is, you take your badge. I have these metal badges from the expansion. The original game comes with cardboard ones. But you take your badge, you throw it in, you say, I think you're the murderer, and then you have to name the 2 cards. If you are correct on the murderer and correct on the 2 cards, you win the game. Everybody, all the detectives win the game. If you are wrong, the forensic scientist who's giving out the clues can only say yes or no. That's all you can say. So if you say, is that the murderer? Those are the 2 cards right there. he can just say, nope, that's not it. He can't say, oh, that's the murderer, but you got the wrong 2 cards. Or we got 1 card right, 1 card wrong. He can't say anything. So you may be right on the trail. You maybe got 1 card right and the right person, and you just missed the other card, but you don't know it. And so now people are like, should I go back and guess him again and pick a different card, or should I go to somebody else now? And
then you got to try to convince other people.
Yep.
I'm telling you, I think it's him. I think it's her. Let's try the other combination.
Yep.
And
exactly.
And of course, if you're the murderer, you're still trying to throw them off. You may throw your guess in and really be pinning on somebody, and then you can try to convince them to pin it on that person too.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to figure out what makes sense to pass off to someone else. If what you say doesn't make sense, they're gonna come after you. If it says strangulation and you're like, oh look, there's I'm trying to think of something you can't. Look, piece of paper that you can strangle on a piece of paper. That makes no sense at all. What? And you must be the murderer, and now people are going to start coming after you. So your accusations of other people have to make sense. If not, you get you get called out pretty quick. If you're not good at bluffing, then you're not going to have a good time at this game. So you got to be somewhat a bluffer, or at least be able to point things out. If you're the murderer, now the great thing is, if you're not the murderer, you don't have to bluff at all. You're just basically just straight deduction. You're trying to figure out what clues on these cards make sense, and the clues that they give you sometimes are just as important as the clues they don't give you. So, for example, if they pick bruise, but they didn't pick bloodstain, and someone says, oh, well, it could be the baseball bat because you can have bruise from that. Yeah, we also have bloodstains too, so you can point the thing. He would have picked that instead, That's probably not a good example, but...
Or a knife.
Or a knife, exactly.
Knife,
so,
if somebody gets cut with a knife, then there's going to be blood.
Yep, exactly. So you can, use the ones he didn't pick also to help you figure out who the murderer is. A lot of fun. We go around the table. Everybody gets to be the forensic scientist one time, and there's a couple of roles.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a witness in there
exactly.
too.
So you can make it a little like Werewolf. It's basically you put in a witness who knows who the murderer is, but doesn't know the cards. But they can't just come out and say, I'm the witness, he's the murderer, because at the end of the game, the murderer gets a chance to kill the witness. And if he does, he still wins. So it's a little like Werewords or Werewolf. You're trying to, something, but you can't quite say it. And then there's also an accomplice. And the accomplice now knows the murderer and is trying to throw everybody off and point them in the other direction, get them away from the murderer, which is great. That really ramps the game up. I would say if you're playing for the first time, I would not put in the witness and the accomplice.
No.
Unless those people have played Werewolf or games like that. They've played deception games before, the Resistance, Avalon, or whatever, games like that, then yeah, you could probably put those in. But if they have not played deception games like that, would not put that in. Also, if you're the one shuffling up and dealing out the cards, and you have someone who's never played this game before, you may want to make sure they don't get the murderer card. I would recommend that, especially if they have no clue what they're doing, they've never bluffed before in their life. Try to maybe stack the deck and make sure they don't get it. It doesn't really matter for you because you're the forensic scientist. You're just giving clues anyway, so you can kind of do that. I've done that before. If somebody's brand new and they've never played a modern board game ever, the first board game, the most recent board game they ever played is Monopoly. I'm trying to not make them the murderer first time, so they can have a chance to play the game. So there you go. That is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, my number 4 party game of all time. All right, we're moving on to Jesse's number 4, which happens to be my number 3. So we're going to talk about it here at the same time since they're so close together on the list. And that is, want to say the name of it?
Secret Hitler.
Yes. Oh, this is so much fun. Before we go any further, I will say I don't like the theme of this.
Yeah.
I wish they had done Secret
Bunny.
Yeah, whatever, something. Yeah, anything else, because when you have friends that come over, you don't want them especially with kids coming over and teenagers or whatever, and you're like, hey, they don't want to go home to their parents and say, hey, we played this Hitler game at the Davis house. It doesn't sound good. So definitely not good on the theme, but the game is great. So if you can get past the theme and you got friends who are okay with this, we've even got some friends that are who are Jewish that play this with us, and they are plan. They're like, it's just a game. I'm fine. It doesn't matter. So if you get past the theme, it's great. This is a great game. Secret Hitler. It's a deception game. But there is a lot going on in this game. So you get a stack of these cards that have either liberal or fascist policies on them. And at the beginning of the game, you're dealt a roll card and a alliance card. So the card says that you are either liberal or you're fascist. And you get another card that says that you are Trump, or I'm sorry, not Trump. Hitler in the game. Sorry, we have a Trump.
We have a Trump version.
So you get a card that says you are Hitler in the game, and Hitler's job is, of course, to try to get fascist policies passed in the game, and the liberals are trying to get liberal policies passed in the game. The way it works is you pick someone to be president randomly in the first part of the game, and they get this little card here. The nice thing about these two, these are nice and wooden. They tell you on the back exactly what you're going to be doing on your turn, which is great.
Yeah.
And so the president is going to elect a chancellor. And he says, all right, I want you to be chancellor. Puts a chancellor tile in front of them, or placard in front of them. And then everybody takes a vote. And you have these cards that say, 9 or yeah on them. These are little voting cards. Everybody has these cards, yeah or 9. And basically, you all put them out. 1, 2, 3, turn them over, and the majority vote wins. If the majority says yes, then that person becomes chancellor, and the president is still the president. Then a vote happens. Now, if it doesn't happen, if it's a majority no or not a majority yes, then the president goes to the person to the left, and we go for the vote again. If that happens 3 times in a row, then you just turn over the top card of the policy deck, and you may get a fascist or a liberal policy out of nowhere.
You lose a little control.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to do that. Unless you're in a position where you've used up a bunch of those other cards and you're trying to grab one. So there's a chance you can take there. But anyway.
If you like to card count, so
yes,
to speak.
Exactly.
But this does take an element of card counting out because as soon as there's only, 3 left, I think, you reshuffle the deck. So you don't have an exact count, which is kind of nice for people who do try to count cards.
You never have perfect knowledge in this game about how many cards are left, which is good. So anyway, the president elects a chancellor, the vote goes through. If it's majority yes, now the president draws 3 cards from the deck. They draw 3 policy cards. They look at them. There's no talking during this part of the game. They look at them. They discard 1. They hand the other 2 to the chancellor. The chancellor then looks at them, discards 1, and then the other one is played face up on the board. If it's a fascist, it goes on the fascist track. If it's a liberal, it goes on the liberal track. The fascists also have powers on them. Sometimes if you pass a fascist power, it'll say like you can kill another player, or you can skip the next president, or things like that. So lots of things you can do in the game. This is a great game. One of the things that does happen a lot in the game is as soon as you see those 2, let's say I'm a fascist person, I draw 2 fascists and a liberal. Well, I'm going to put down a liberal. I'm going to hand the other person the 2 fascists because I want them to pass one of the fascists. Of course, the first thing they're going to say is, well, you handed me 2 fascists. That's all I can play. And then I have a choice at that point. I can either say, yeah, well, that's all I drew. I drew 3 fascists. That's my only choice I had. Or I can say, I drew a liberal and fascist. I passed him a liberal and fascist. He's lying. He paid the fascist. He could have played the liberal card. He had one of each. And now they're like, oh, who do we trust? Which one is telling the truth? So you have to determine, should I try to throw the other person under the bus now? Or should I just say, sorry, I didn't have a choice because all I could do was 3 the same. That's all I could do. And put no heat on the other person.
Timing of that is very important too in the game.
Yes, if you do that too early in the game, you could draw mistrust towards yourself. No one trusts you. And then later on in the game, when you're trying to get the other part of the game is getting Hitler elected chancellor, which I'll go over in a second. If no one trusts you, then you're not going to have any power later on in the game. So you have to try to hold on to that trust. Chancellor. So if the fascists get 3 policies passed on the board, if any point in time after that, if Hitler gets elected as chancellor, Hitler's team wins the game. The fascists win the game. So you don't have to even get to all 6 fascist policies. So what does Hitler do in the game? You play good. You act like you act 100% like a liberal the entire time. You do not do anything negative. The only bad time...
Deceive.
Yeah, exactly. The only bad part about that is when if you're Hitler and you draw 3 fascist policies, and now you had to play one, people cannot trust you, and that can really suck. That doesn't happen very often, but that can really hurt your game. But if you can lay low and be good, and you say, hey, I think we should elect so-and-so as chancellor, and everybody's like, yeah, we trust them, sure. And you're like, all right. And the vote goes through, and you're like, all right, are you Hitler? Yes, I am. And then your red team wins, you're like, oh, I trusted you. That means you're playing Hitler the correct way if you were being very sly like that.
And Hitler, does Hitler know who's on his side, or does the other people know who Hitler is?
Yes. So,
okay.
Yeah, so the fascists know who Hitler is. But Hitler does not know who anybody is in the game. He doesn't know who's on the side, who isn't.
Right.
And of course, the liberals don't know who the fascists are or who Hitler is. They're all hidden roles also. So yeah, so Hitler is playing good, and he's watching what people are doing, trying to read their body language, trying to read what they're doing. And someone plays a fascist policy, he's like, "Well, he must be on my team," but maybe they did.
Yeah.
Maybe they just because they drew 3, you know. And like, so he doesn't really know who to trust at all. He's just hoping somebody elects him chancellor after the 3rd fascist policy goes out.
And you know, if you're on Hitler's side, that early on you may need to play good, obviously, and throw that vote in so people will trust you toward the end.
Yep.
And then you also might have to throw somebody under the bus that you do suspect is on your team or you know is on your team.
Yep.
So
yeah, if people are going after one of the other fascists and you're a fascist, you're like, yeah, we should totally knock him out. Yeah, I don't trust him. Yeah. Because you don't want the heat on you. If you're defending someone, that's going to put heat back on you. That's awesome. The one thing that Hitler also has a problem with is if it comes around to Hitler's turn, and there's already like 3 or 4 liberal policies out there on the board, say there's 3 out there, Hitler's like, and he draws fascist and liberal, he's like, oh crap. He's like, it's like, I can't put one more liberal out there now because it's like they're going to win the game with one more. I'm like, I got to throw fascists out here. And so you can really be in a position where you have to make a hard choice.
yes,
Do I need to,
exactly.
should I throw that one out there or should I take a chance and move and go forward in the game? Lots of fun. This is one of those games where afterwards you talk about for hours afterwards, like, I can't believe you were Hitler. I trusted you the whole time. And then, oh, it's great. The talking afterwards is great. Again, great deception game. Secret Hitler. I just wish they had a better theme on it. I'm seriously thinking about putting up my own version of this, making like
Secret Smurf?
Yeah, something. Whatever. There's a secret Harry Potter, Voldemort, Secret Voldemort, Secret Sith, you know, for Star Wars. There's also the things you can do. Some people have made some print and plays online you can print up for this. I have seriously considered making my own because I don't like the theme that much. So there you go. That is my number 3 and Jesse's number 4, Secret Hitler.
All right. So what number is this on mine? I actually forgot.
Number 3.
Number 3. Yes, it is number 3. So my number 3 is actually going to be Werewolf. This is a great deception game. I love this game so much. I am a people reader. I love to read people. So this game is for you if you like to read people. We love to play this game because it plays large groups of people. Typically, we like to play this game in the evening after we've played some other kind of easier party games, so to speak. This one's
strategy games. Yeah.
Yes, or some strategy games. We like to pull this game out. This is great for a good group, large group of people. You do want to make sure that everybody's sitting in a circle for this game, though. It is imperative to be able to see everybody. You can kind of talk about everybody. All right, so there is a nighttime and a daytime phase in this game. There are werewolves and there are villagers. There are some special roles that can go into the villager roles. There's actually some special werewolf roles too, I think, but we don't typically pull those out too often because it seems that a lot of times we're playing with a lot of new players and people who haven't played before, so we try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yep.
Some of the villager roles, though, that we have are like the tough guy who lives another night if they happen to be killed by the werewolves, though.
Yep.
Not if they get lynched during the day by their own people. So that's one. There's Masons, who Masons know each other in the game. So that makes it nice because you know that you're both villagers and you know that at least one other villager for sure out there.
Yep. And if the other Mason's getting killed during the day, you should say, hey, I'm the Mason, he's the Mason too, don't kill him.
Yes.
You should try to protect him.
Yes, absolutely. Now, granted, you might, if that's early on in the game, then, you know, you might want it getting taken out by a werewolf. Not likely. But yes, you do want to try to protect the other Mason if you're a Mason, for sure. There is the Hunter, which is also a good one. If the Hunter gets killed by the werewolves, then they get to automatically kill somebody else immediately. No discussion, no talking. Immediately they get to kill somebody else. So if they suspect somebody's a werewolf and that they were killed by them, then they most likely will want to take that person out. I think, what are some other special... Oh, the Seer.
The Hunter gets to kill somebody. The Seer, there's a lone wolf where you want to be the last remaining werewolf. Yeah. There's an apprentice Seer, so if the Seer gets killed, you now become the Seer.
There's a stinky guy, I don't remember.
There's a Tanner.
The Tanner, he's the stinky guy.
If you die, then you win the game. That's the Tanner, which is a horrible role in my opinion. But
yeah.
Yeah. So this is it's a great game, especially for large groups. You know, I'd say 10 or more for sure. I love this game. I did not have this on my list, on my top 10, and the reason I did not put it on my top 10 is because I rarely play this game. I mostly moderate this game. I was trying to do the math before this video, and I think I have moderated Werewolf close to 400 times now. And I love moderating Werewolf. My job as a moderator is to make sure that everybody is having a good time.
Yes, that's definitely important for moderators.
Of course,
yes.
the rules are being followed, and things are flowing smoothly. You're supposed to do all that, but you get that down after you've done this a few times. But then to make sure everybody's having a good time. If someone's talking over everybody else and just ruining the game for other people, you have to kind of shut that down a little bit sometimes. You have to ensure that people aren't doing things like looking at someone else's card or things like that, just straight up cheating,
Yeah.
But most of the time that doesn't happen. Most of the time, you're just trying to keep the rolls straight. You're trying to keep the conversation going. If the villagers are just sitting there not talking, not saying anything, as a moderator, it's your job to get them talking. Now, you can't just say, hey, you guys need to talk.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. I try to do things like, all right, let's go around the village and let's all say what our job is in the village. Just make up a job in the village and make up what your name is in the village, which is fun. I don't do that if there's like 25 people though, because that takes like forever to go around the room.
Yes, definitely don't want to do that with 25 people.
Yeah. So another way to get conversation going is a schoolyard pick. Have everybody raise your hand, and then I randomly pick somebody, and that person points at somebody, that person puts their hand down, and then you go and keep going until there's one person left with their hand up, and that person is up for nomination to be lynched that day. You don't have to actually lynch them,
Right.
but they're up for nomination. And now people start talking like, why did you point at him? And you pointed at her to save her. Why did you point at him? Oh, well, I just pointed, I don't know why. You're like, so now conversations get started, and that's just, you get the ball rolling with that. That's a way I think to get the conversation going at the beginning of the game. Great game, love it. If you're playing with the first time, just use werewolves, villagers, and the seer. The seer gets to at each night open her eyes and point to one person. You get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's something that can be hard as a moderator. When you're moderating and you say, seer, open your eyes and point to somebody, and I'll tell you whether they're a werewolf or they're not, right? And the seer opens her eyes and points across the room. If you've got a huge circle of people, you have to like, is it this person you're talking about? Or is it this, which one are you talking about? And if the seer's already closed their eyes and gone back to bed, you're like, oh.
You're like, seer,
What are you doing? I gotta
open your eyes again.
So there could be some crazy things that go on at night when you're moderating the game. But
you also want to try not to move a lot. That's another part of the problem too, is if you are the seer, you don't want to move too much, because when you're sitting in close quarters, people are like, oh, you can't help but use your senses. And, oh, I felt so-and-so move, or I heard something over here or over there, You do a really good job of walking around the room, so we can't really tell what direction, you're picking or talking or pointing or what have you.
Absolutely. If the seer, let's say seer, open your eyes, and I'm looking right at the same person every night, and they can hear my voice over in that area,
projecting in that direction.
Yeah, they're going to know who I'm talking to. So I have to look the opposite direction one night, look over here another night. I have to look around to when I'm saying things. But yeah, you're right. If you're the seer at night, and they say seer, open your eyes and point to somebody, and you go, oh, that person over there, they're going to be like, oh, I know the seer is now.
But we've had that happen before.
Yes, we have. We've had somebody seer, open your eyes, and point to someone you'd like to identify as a werewolf, and they go, in the middle of the night. You're like, what? And the next night, the werewolves were like, oh, we're killing that guy. He's gone. The funniest thing is when someone doesn't cheer when they're supposed to. So when someone dies in the game, as a moderator, I'll take the card and I'll show it to the team. I'll say, hey, you killed a werewolf, and everybody goes, yay! If someone doesn't go, yay, they just sit there like this. You're like, why didn't you cheer, right? Or vice versa. If the seer dies, which is like the worst, like, oh, and you guys have killed your seer, and someone goes, yeah, you're like, why are you cheering for the seer dying? What are you doing?
Wait a minute. This guy over here.
I have to nominate him now. Talking about you, Wes.
So there are a couple of sort of variations that we've made in the game that are kind of my favorite things. One of them, we have a spellcaster in here, which is in the regular game. But one of the things that we made for spellcaster is, if you're Game of Thrones fans, you will get this. We say you can only say Hodor. So you can still participate in the game. You just can only say the word Hodor. You can inflect it. Hodor. Hodor, 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 Hodor. But you still can't say anything but Hodor. Okay?
You do that so well.
I love being Hodor. I really love being Hodor. That's like one of my favorite roles in the game.
It's a character from Game of Thrones, just so you know, if you haven't watched Game of Thrones.
Yes. Another variation that we put in that I really, really like, and I think that it makes people who get voted out of the game.
Oh, wait, you know about the keeping people in?
Yeah.
Okay, let's not share that in this video.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I'm going to make a separate video after this video called How to Play Werewolf Without Player Elimination.
Oh.
We play Werewolf without player elimination, and in a separate video, I'm going to show you how to do that. It makes the game 10 times better, in my opinion. Our friends love it. We've been doing it for years now. It works great. So I want to show you.
We have a secret variation that you have to tune in later to find out what it is.
Check in the description below. I'll put a link to the other video. And yeah, check out our Werewolf, how to play Werewolf without player elimination video that I'm going to be doing soon. So there you go. Let's skip that part. All right. Anything else on Werewolf?
No, it's just a really great deception game.
There's lots of variations in the rule book too. There's things where you can show the roles or you can not show the roles. You can have people change roles at night. There's all sorts of crazy things you can do in the game. But just the basic game of Werewolf was awesome.
I mean, even sometimes when you're voted out of Werewolf, you were a lot of times if you're on to the werewolves or a werewolf, you're dead. You're dead. Even if you're not the seer, they're going to kill you because, if they're smart, they're going to get you out of the game so you stop talking. And you get taken out, and when the nighttime phase comes and you see who it is, you're like, dadgummit, I knew it. I knew that's who it was, but you can't say anything. You can't say anything. So
once you're dead, you're out.
Yep.
No talking after you leave the game.
Yep.
But except in our variation, you get to add input back in.
Yes, you
which
do.
I'll go over in that video. All right, so that is Jesse's number 3, Werewolf. Again, it would be on my list, but I don't play it very often. I moderate it most of the time, but I love this game also. So there you go. Number 3. Moving on. Now we're getting up to the best of the best. Number 1 and number 2 coming up here. My number 2 party game of all time, and this was on Jesse's list. This was her number 6 party game of all time. So you know it's good. It's high up on both of our lists, and that is Codenames. This is the Disney version of Codenames. We have every version of Codenames that there is. This is an amazing game for partying. So I've heard people say that it can be boring, but that's because you're playing it wrong, and I'm going to tell you why you're playing it wrong in just a moment. But let me tell you what the game does. So basically, you get a stack of words or pictures. They go into a grid of 5 by 5, and then you're on 2 teams, and you're trying to get your team to guess which words are yours. You get a little card in the game that shows you which ones are yours. It's a little grid. I'll show you what that looks like. It looks like one of these right here. There we go. So it's a little grid card. It shows red, blue, yellow on it. Looks something like that. And this shows you who's on your team in that grid. So imagine there's 25 cards out there in 5 by 5. If you're on the red team, the red cards are yours. If you're on the blue team, the blue team has those cards, and so on and so forth. There are a bunch of words on the cards or pictures. Let's say they're words. And you've got cats and you've got dogs. And you're trying to get your team to guess those 2 cards are your cards. And so you look at your team and you say, pets 2. Pets being the subject that you're talking about with the cards, and 2 being that there's 2 cards that you're talking about. And then your team discusses, pets 2. Okay, well, it could be dogs, it could be cats, and is there any other pets out there? And once they make a decision, they touch the card. If they're right, you cover it up with one of your little squares here, for the red team or the blue team. If they touch the wrong card, it could be the other team's card, or it could be an innocent bystander. Either way, their turn's over. There is one other card out there. It's the black card, the assassin. If they touch that one, the game is over. You lose immediately. So you definitely want to make sure you avoid that card.
Steer them away from it if you need to.
So if dogs is the assassin and cats is one of your cards, don't use pets.
Right.
Not a good idea.
Right.
Use feline or something like that. Also, don't use pets. So that's the game. First team to cover up all of their cards wins the game. That's it. It is so much fun trying to think of the right words to say to get your team to guess. The clue giver's job is very tough in this game.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
You got everybody's looking at you to give a good clue here, and you're like, oh, I can think of one. If someone has got a lot of AP in the game and they're taking a long time, I recommend using a timer. It comes with some of them come with a little sand timer, set a 1 minute timer, 2 minute timer, whatever it is. Put a timer. If you got somebody who's just sitting there thinking forever, all right, that can ruin the game if they're just sitting there forever because everybody's bored while they sit there and think. The other part that can be boring is while the other team is looking at the cards, just thinking about, what could be this, could be this. The other team's just kind of sitting there not doing anything. not when we play it. When we play the game, we play it so that you are talking trash to the other team the whole time while they're trying to pick their cards. This is what makes the game a party game. What makes it fun for me. The other team is, so I've said pets too, and I'm giving this to there's 2 cards clearly to me are the right cards, right? And the other team's like, oh well, look, there's cage, and you put pets in cages. Oh,
right.
and look, there's a lizard. You have a lizard as a pet. Oh,
right.
fishes can be a pet too. You're like, no, clearly it's cats and dogs. And now the other team starts second guessing themselves. They're like, oh, they're right. It could be a lizard, And it's great.
The clue giver's like this, though.
Yeah, you have to keep a poker face. That's a tough part of the game. Is when you're like, oh, I can't say anything. I have to sit here and be quiet the whole time and not make any reaction at all. Our friend Karen, she has to just like let's do this the whole time. She can't even look because she knows she's going to give an eyeball to somebody or roll her eyes or do something. It's tough. You have to keep a poker face the whole time. Our friend Charlie, who's on the podcast with us. By the way, we have a podcast. Go to gamingparty.com/podcast and check out our podcast. But my friend Charlie, he talked about this game and he said one of his favorite things to do in the game is to make up facts. Make up new facts. Yep, and they sound believable though. So if you're like paper too, you're like, oh, the Mexicans, they invented paper, and you put Mexico on the board. You're like, did they really? I don't think they did. Right? And people start second guessing themselves. It's great. I love that. So there you go. Code names. There's so many versions of it. We have the Disney version. There is let's see. There's a dirty version, the adult version of it. There is a Harry Potter version.
Marvel.
The Marvel one is the toughest one.
Yeah.
The Marvel one is super tough, especially on the picture side. We played the Marvel one and had it all dealt out, and there's like 5 pictures of Spider-Man out there. One with him with Mary Jane, one with him swinging, swinging on a web. There's all different, and you're like, okay, I can't say Spider-Man because 2 of them are theirs, 2 are ours. That's difficult. It's very difficult. The Marvel one, I'd say that's probably the toughest one. The Disney one's pretty easy, especially with the pictures. That one's pretty easy to get people to guess. And then the regular one, it's great. I actually made up my own version of code names and sent a bunch of cards off to get printed, and it had a ton of words in it, all these geek words in there. I had words like Chewbacca and Han Solo and all these kind of things in there, and Harry Potter words and whatever before they came out with any of these other versions, because I wanted to make a geek version of it, and it's just a straight up geek version, but it's a mix of all geeks, a version of genres or what's the word I'm looking for? That's fan club thing. What's the word? I forget what the word is. Whatever.
Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever the word is for fan clubs. Geekdoms. There you go. Whatever geekdom you're in. Yeah, exactly.
Geekdom. Okay.
Yeah, so there's lots of different geekdoms that are.
I'm not that geeky, I guess.
They're all mixed into one code names for us, though, so we can play. It's great. Love the game. I would highly recommend it. Code names. Anything else to add to that?
It's a really good thinking outside the box game. I really enjoy being the clue giver, even though that's the hardest part, is being the clue giver. Tying things together, steering people away from things that you don't want them to get, waiting for your opponent to cover up. You might have 2 countries out there, and one of them's yours. You wait for your opponent to cover up theirs, so you don't have to worry about your clue covering it up.
The hardest one I had once was mine was helicopter, and airplane was the assassin.
Oh wow, yeah.
You're like, what? I mean, as soon as they dealt the cards out, I looked at that. I'm like, oh, we're dead.
Hover.
I'm like,
hover. One.
Yeah. Airplanes can hover too. There's Harrier jets or whatever. So, but anyway, it was tough. I was like, I've got to hold off on that. I didn't go for helicopter and just stay away from it as long as I could. And I think at the end of the game, the other team actually ended up hitting the assassin for me, which is great. But yeah, it is tough when when something's very close to the assassin card. So there you go. Lots of fun. Again, this is one of those games where if it's someone's first time coming to a party game night at your house, don't make them the clue giver off the bat. Let them play the game a few times and see how it works, because you are on the spot in front of the group.
And also with this, the nice thing with this Codenames Disney that we have here, this actually, we have a, how old is Madeline now?
She is
5, 4?
She's 3.
3?
4 now. I think she's 4 now.
Okay,
yes.
4. So we have a 4-year-old niece that we've actually been able to play this with. You just don't use as many cards, and you can modify it, and that makes it really neat to be able to have a game that an adult can play along with a 3 or 4-year-old child.
Yep. They have a card in the game that's a little smaller. It's 4x4 instead of 5x5, so that's good for little kids. But even if you have a small child, the pictures, and this has all sorts of pictures in it. It's pictures of the Disney characters, basically, in here. I don't want to show too many of those, so I don't want to get sued by Disney or something, And so you can just put 3 or 4 of those cards out and say a word, you know, princess too, and ask the child, which one am I talking about? Oh, you're talking about these. Oh, great. What word would you say for those 2 cards? You know.
Yeah, and it's a good way to teach them and introduce them to this type of thinking
Yep.
In a game.
Yep, it's a great game. You can actually pull out play with kids. You're not going to play the full version with a kid,
Right.
But or the small children, but you can play a modified version with children.
Right,
Yep.
and it teaches them some of the basic, skills of games,
Yep.
which is a nice introduction.
Yep. So there you go. That is my number 2 and Jesse's number 6. Code names.
All right, and my number 2 game, I love this game, is Telestrations.
Woohoo!
All right, this
a lot of
game is like the game Telephone. If you've played that as a kid, you remember somebody whispers something into somebody's ear, and they whisper it into the next person's ear, and it goes down the line, and eventually it comes out as being something completely different than what it started. Okay, and that's basically what Telestrations is, but you're using this little notepad that you have here. You get a stack of cards, and there is a number on each card, actually a die number, so to speak. And what you do is you roll the die, and whatever number comes up, you do that thing, you write that. Now, sometimes on these, depending on the number of players, you're going to write, you always want to write your name on here, by the way, but you're going to write the word first, or you're going to draw the word, or
I'll show
so
while
to
you're
speak.
talking.
Yeah. So you're going to write down, or you're going to sketch, one of the two. Then once you do that, for instance, if my word is potato, I want to write the word potato and pass it, or depending on the number of players, I will draw a potato and then pass it. You don't want to close your book back up again though, because it wants to. You need to stay in place. So the next person you're passing it to will now see what I drew or what I wrote. Once the next person gets that, if they see a drawing, then you're going to want to go back and you're going to look at this drawing. You're not go back. I apologize. You don't go back ever. You stay on the page you're on.
Don't close the book, because you'll end up opening it and seeing the original drawing.
Yes,
You wanna-
yes.
So just draw it or write it and just pass it right to the person.
So
And
whatever
that's all,
you
and that's all they get to see.
if you see the word potato, then you flip the page and you draw a potato. If you see whatever it is you happen to see that's supposed to be a potato, then you just make a guess on the next page on what that's supposed to be or what you think that is. The funny thing is, just like Telephone, the drawings start to get more weird and more weird and more weird. And then sometimes you don't even know what the heck you're looking at. And I have a friend of mine that, I guess we can name her, right? Her name is Karen. I love this friend.
Karen's been on the channel with us.
She
played Haggis with us. And
Oh, that's
and
right.
Dragon,
So Karen, I love having Karen follow me, because sometimes I get stuff and I have no idea what it is. So I just come up with some random picture or a random word just to see what she has to draw or what she's going to come up with of my drawing. So sometimes it can get a little fun like that too. But this is one of the reasons one of my favorite games is just, it's hilarious. After you get your notepad back, then we all get to go and do a little presentation of what it started at and what it ended at. And it's pretty funny to go along the way and like, who drew that? What was that supposed to be? How was that? Sometimes you can only draw stick figures, and then sometimes you get these real artists in here that can draw really cool stuff.
Not me. I cannot draw.
No, I'm stick figure person.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, this is great. The funny thing is when you get that word and you're like, or picture, and you're like, I have no freaking clue what this is. I'm like, and I will just be literal. I will describe what I see literally as much as I can, which really makes it even funnier, because I'll write stick man standing over top of ball looking like it's a moon or something, and I'll head to the next person. They're like, what? And they're like, okay, and then they draw that, and it goes to the next person. So you can do that, or you can just write whatever you want. If you do get something, let's say somebody passes you a stick man, it looks like they're on a ball with something going on, you're like, what the heck is this? Now I'm like, what is this thing? I'm like, jump roping on Saturn. There you go. And I hand to the next person. I'm like, that's what it looked like to me, So you can be creative, The great thing about this, there's no scorekeeping. I don't even know how to keep score in this game. I think
there is a way, I think, but we don't ever do it. We don't ever keep score. You know why? Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It's just fun.
It's just
fun. You play it, and
it's just
my
fun.
cheeks hurt every time I play this from laughing. Oh
Laughter.
my God, my cheeks hurt from laughing.
There is an After Dark version of this that
play with your adult
is,
friends.
Yes,
Not with kids.
Exactly. It is not a kid-friendly one,
not kid-friendly.
but that one is hilarious too. just to see what people have to draw. And so anyway, this is such a great game for, I don't know how many players this plays up to. I think it's...
So different versions. There's a 8-player version, there's a 12-player version. I think this is the 8-player version.
This is 8-player version, yeah.
But you can also buy 2 copies of it too. If you
Yes,
can't
exactly.
find the 12-player version that's out there, if you want more copies, you should buy 2 copies of the game, and then because all you need is these books and then the cards. That's fine. You can even make up your own words. Like, hey, make up one word, and then pass it to the next person. You know, you don't even need the cards if you wanted to. You can just be creative. So.
Yep.
So there you go. Telestrations. That is your number 2.
That is my number 2.
Number 2. All
Because
right.
I die of laughter.
All right. We are finally here. We're at number 1. Our number 1 party games of all time. I'm so excited to talk about this one. This is one that I love and adore playing. I will play this at any time, anywhere. And that is Crosstalk. Crosstalk is a team game. You break up into 2 teams, and you are trying to get your team to guess a word or phrase before the other team does by giving them clues, kind of like password or games like that. So let's say it's, the phrase could be a movie title, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, right? And now you have to say something like whip, whatever. You want to get your team to guess it, and you do that by writing words on this board here. Say you're a blue team, you write your words here. If you're a black team, you write your words here. You also get to give your team a secret clue on this little card here. So you write something here, hand it to your team, so they have a clue that the other team doesn't have. It sounds like, well, that'd be easy. I'd give them a secret clue, my first word, they'd get it. Here's the catch. When you write a word on this board for your team, the other team gets to guess first. So you do not want to write something really specific on this board. You want to write something that is a little off, one step away from the word, trying to get them towards it, and something that ties back to your secret word.
Right.
That's what's really important. So if it is a phrase, let's say whatever, there was one that was screen door on a submarine or something like that, right? Then you want to write phrase on here.
Right.
So your team knows it's a phrase, and then you start writing things like Navy or whatever, or useless,
Ocean, or
whatever.
useless.
Write things on here to try to get your team to guess it, but you just can't write, door, and you can't write door anyway because the door's on the card, so you can't write that. But you're trying to write words that get them to go towards that. It is so much fun. There's not a lot of pressure on the clue giver as there is in code names. In code names, there's a lot of pressure on it. It's really hard to think of words. This one, you just got to think of a word that's not as specific as the words you really want to use. It's not as hard to do that as it is giving clues in code names, in my opinion. And it's so satisfying when your team gets that, when they tie this secret clue to the words you gave them, and they figure out like, yes, oh, we got it, we know it, And the other team then hears them like starting to cheer a little bit, like, oh, we got it, yeah. They feel pressure, like, oh, we got to guess, and they'll guess something, and that gives information to the other team,
right?
Because they're like, why would they guess that? Oh, their secret card must say this, and now you know what's on there. Also, they've eliminated a guess. If, let's say, you were, it's either Sleeping Beauty or Snow White, I'm not sure which one it is, and they say Sleeping Beauty, well, that eliminates that. Now we know we can go guess Snow White now.
And many a times have we been like, the other team guesses, and you're like, erasing your tablet. I guess that's not it.
Yeah, exactly.
Glad you guessed it, not me.
Exactly. So that is Crosstalk. It comes with these little player cards. These are for each team has 3 or 4 of these. These are used for showing notes and talking back and forth with your teammates because you don't want to say out loud, oh, I think it's Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, because the other team's going to hear you say that. So you got to say, oh, I think it's this, and then you write Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom on here, show it to your teammates, and you go, yeah, I think it could be it, or they go, no, that's not it, no, and erase it and keep writing down guesses. Sometimes you'll have 3 or 4 guesses on your team, and you're like, which one's the best one? Which should you go with? Sometimes you have no guess. You're like, I have no clue how mermaid and rock and remote tie together. I have no idea. What do those have to do with each other? And at the end, the clue giver explains it to you, and sometimes you're like, oh, yeah, those were good clues. I always didn't get that. Or you're like, yeah, you can't be a clue giver anymore. So, no, it's so much fun. There is a more advanced version of the game. We've played a few times, but it doesn't typically come out, and that's these cards right here. So if you want to turn this into a gamer's game, make it one step harder than what it already is, this card right here allows you, once per game, to give this to your team immediately after they guess, and you can write these little symbols that are on the bottom here on this card. They allow you to do things like ignore this clue, emphasize this clue, this partial of the word I said earlier, not the whole word, or combine these two clues here. Take this clue and this clue, put them together. That gives you the answer, right? So that is this to me is great. You can also do opposite. So if I say man and I write it down, later on in the game I pass this card to my team and I say that was opposite, they know now I meant woman.
And that is before your guess and only a one-time use, right?
It's one time per game, right? And it's right immediately after your team has guessed.
Our team has guessed.
Yeah, so
okay.
once my team guesses, I can immediately pass this to them because now it's on me to write something and the other team gets a guess. And so it's a whole nother round basically goes by and they can't use this until it gets back to them.
Right.
So
okay.
they can't immediately use it just to win the game, right? So I love this right here. I like this because you really, as a clue giver, you can think, okay, I'm going to give this word, and then I'm going to give this word, then I'm going to give this other opposite one, and then I'm going to give them this in the third round and tie all that together for them. And the other team's going to have no chance of getting it if they don't know what's on this card here. But that's risky, though, because if you're planning on those 3 words and maybe in your secret word, and the other team gets it in 2 words, you lost. Mm-hmm. You know, the other team can get it ahead of time. So planning on that can really hurt you in the game, too, because they can just go straight for it and get it. So without your words at all. There's been several examples of this game where people have gotten it with just the secret word and the first word they write.
Yeah, yeah.
We were playing one night, and my buddy James, he did a amazing clue. The clue, the secret phrase was the Karate Kid. All right, and I think I wrote dojo or something or whatever. He writes a word for his team, hands us his team, and he's like, "I'll go first." I'm like, "All right." He writes the word wax on the board. Wax. And I'm like, why would you write wax? Oh. He gave his team the word on. Wax on, wax off. If you haven't seen the movie, sorry, but Karate Kid, yeah. So he wrote wax on here, on for his team. They immediately knew what it was, and I'm like, we are so hosed. Because I think I gave my team movie or something like that, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get them to guess this.
Yeah.
There's no way. And so, yeah, we lost that round. But, yeah, lots of fun. You can pull this out and play this with people who haven't played modern board games at all. It's just a clue guessing game like passwords. If they don't want to give clues, they just want to be the person guessing, great. You know, they don't have to come up and guess. They don't have to be a clue giver. They can just be a guesser in the game. So yeah, Crosstalk, my #1 party game of all time. Highly recommended. It's so funny. We actually wore out our copy of this. This is our second copy because we used their dry erase boards so much they just got completely worn out. This is our second copy of the game. That's how much we played this game. So there you go. My #1, Crosstalk. Love that game. Could talk about that for hours. But I'll stop here, and we're going to go on to Jesse's #1 party game of all time. Jesse, what is your #1 party game of all time?
My #1 party game of all time is Time's Up.
Time's Up.
Time's
baby.
Up.
Yes.
So this is kind of like a charades game with 3 rounds. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to separate into teams. Depending on how many people you have, you might have 3 teams of 4, or 4 teams of 3, or 2 teams of 6, or however you divide up.
Right, and that's how we do it. The rules actually say you're supposed to have teams of 2.
Teams of 2, that's true.
That's it. But we find it's more fun to do bigger groups.
Yeah, we do. We find it especially when you have 12 or 14 people. We like to break it up a little bit. So the way this game works is everybody is going to get a certain number of cards in their hand, and there's a blue side and yellow side, and we will choose one of those 2 sides to read, and you're gonna. I don't know. Is the giving back 1 or 2? Is that typically one of the rules?
Yeah, I think one of the versions of it has that in there. So we hand out like 4 cards to everybody, and everybody gives 1 back that they don't like, and then we take the other ones that they have, and those are the cards we use. So you end up with a stack of cards for the game. You can vary the number of cards in the game based on the length that you want to have.
Yes. Yes.
I find 30 cards is a good length for the game. You can go 35 or 40 if you want a longer game or a harder game, but I think 30 is a good number.
Yeah. And so the basis of the game is that there's 3 rounds. Everybody's going to look at their 4 cards that they have left in their hand. Then we collect all the cards, shuffle them up into one pile. And then each team is going to take turns coming up. And the first round, you can say anything you want other than what's on the card itself. You can act out, which is very important. Everybody forgets that. And you can, actually you can't hum or whistle, and you can't make noises like barking or anything like that.
Just
so
talking
just talking
and
and charades in the first round. And you're going to do that until the deck is gone. Every team's going to take turns doing that. You get 30 seconds, I think.
30 seconds.
30 seconds to act out
time.
as much as you can and to get your team to guess as much as you can. Once we do that, we take a score. Whoever has, the lowest points in the next round usually begins first. That team begins first.
So yeah, so we actually found out there's a rule in the game, and we had not been playing. If you're up acting and you get the team to guess the last card for that round, whatever time was on the clock, you get to the next round. So you start right there. So if there was 20 seconds left on the clock, you basically lost those 20 seconds if you don't get to continue.
Really?
So, yeah, so the person's supposed to continue going. So we had not been playing that way. Usually we just say whoever's in last gets to go first because it's kind of a catch-up mechanic. We kind of help them out a little bit. So.
Okay, well, there you go. So there's obviously, house rules sometimes when
you
you
can
play these
house
games
rule,
like this. The second round, you can only say one word and act out. So again, it is important to act out in the first round, although everybody forgets to do it. And then the third round, you can hum or whistle and act out. So again, it's important to act out, and nobody does it. All right. So this is one of my favorite games, though, because it lasts a little while, and it's just fun. It's fun to see your friends up there acting out, doing funny stuff, trying to get you to guess. And then there is a little bit of strategy because you have to really remember what the card. Yeah, memorization. Yeah, memory. That's probably a better word. Yeah. You have to remember what the other teams are guessing right because your team's not going. You're just observing.
Yep.
So you have to kind of remember, and then you have to remember the phrase. Some of these on here are difficult. Some of them are really hard, and we get stuck with these cards, and you have to say it right. Now, we don't like to have super strict rules. If you miss an A or an an or the, we'll usually give it to you. But if you say it wrong and it's just clearly, blatantly wrong, then we're like, sorry, you really have to say it right because it's not fair to the other teams.
Well, yeah, unless you want to play jerk rules where you're like, you didn't say the word "the." We don't do that. So we try to play it nice. We were at Maddie's Heroes last weekend. Maddie's Heroes is a charity event for raising money for cancer research from our friend Alex. His daughter Maddie had cancer, and it was a great event. We had a blast there. Check out that. Go to maddiesheroes.com. MADDIS at heroes.com.
IES, I think.
No, it's just IS.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep. I'll put a link in the description also. You can donate money for charity. We just had the event last weekend, and we played times up there. And one of the cards was The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, all right, this is a guy who was on a horse. And I'm like, yeah. And I did the whole like riding a horse thing, and even though I didn't need to in the first round, all I had to do was talk. And my team, when I said it's the opposite of noon, and they were like, opposite of noon. And they were like, what? Oh, midnight. And I'm like, all right, yes. And they finally put it together, like Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. So they got it. And then the next round, all I had to do was, I didn't have to say a word. All I had to do was just do the little horse motion, and me and my team knew what it was, which is great. I love when you see those progressions, see those things carry on to the next round, and people do silly stuff. And sometimes it's like something that doesn't make any sense. Like, a person does something silly, you're like, why was that? Mm-hmm. And then you get up there, and you're like, oh, you just point at the guy who just did that. Everybody goes, oh, yeah, he did that, yeah. And then
or if they're the only one that was ever able to guess it, then you just point at them.
Yeah.
And they know, oh, I know what it is.
I think that might be cheating, but it's still funny. Yeah.
It's all for fun.
You can do things too, like you can use anything that's in the room, right? So if someone has something on their shirt that ties into the game, like somebody's got a picture of a tiger on their shirt and the card's got something tiger on, you can go over and point at their shirt and do this, And which is great when they get up there to act out and they go, oh, and they get the same card, they go, oh, it's right here. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it is so much fun. There's, like you said, there's a little bit of strategy or memorization in the game. You've got to memorize some of the cards because you're going to see those in the next round and the round afterwards. But even if you don't memorize them, it's fun to still try to guess and figure out what was that word before? I don't remember that card from before.
Yeah. And that happens. That happens a lot too. And you're really not supposed to. If you go up there and you're the one that is doing the charades part, you can't. If your team didn't guess the last one, you can't go over there and say, this is what that was, or this, or I was doing this, that's what this meant. You can't really side talk like that, which we've actually also done where we don't sit together as a team. We used to do that, and now we're spread out as a team, which makes it a little better because everybody on the team gets a different view than, say, just the backside view.
Yeah. So in the rules it says if you're supposed to play 2 people per team. So if you got 6 people playing, that's 3 teams, 2 each, right? We don't do that. We usually break it up like 4 and 4 and do two big teams, which we find to be more fun. two things that can happen with this, like she's talking about. You can have the people start doing side talks about the clues, like, oh, next time I'm going to do this. And you're not supposed to do that. It kind of ruins the spirit of the game of guessing what they're acting, right? So, yeah, instead of having everybody sit on one side for one team, one side the other, we have them set every other person is on the other team. And that does two things for you. One, stops people from table talking. Two, that also, when I'm up acting now, my team isn't just sitting on one side of the room. They're just sitting all around. So I'm not going to turn my back to the other team, which can be problematic, especially if you're doing something small with your hands. They can't see it from behind you. So having people spread out like that, I recommend that. Doing every other person on the team if you're doing big groups like we do.
Yeah.
The other part is your... I forgot what I was going to say now.
Oh, no! You're hungry, that's why.
Oh, no, I know it's... in the round, so you can only say one word in that second round, right?
Hodor.
And your team only gets one guess in that second round.
Hodor.
Yeah, and then in the last round, you can't say anything, and your team, again, only gets one guess. In the first round, they guess as much as they want. They can say as much as they want. But in the second and third round, they can only get one guess. This can be problematic when you do the mixing of teams like we do when you have big teams, because if two people on the team, one person yells at the right answer, one person yells at the wrong answer at the same time, you got to have a house rule for that. Our house rule is you didn't get it. You got to yell out just the right answer. So it's important when you do that to not just yell out an answer. You want to look at your other teammates and go, do you know what it was? Do you know what it was? And then just have people think about it, and then have one person yell out the answer they think it is.
Yeah.
This can happen if there's two words or two phrases that are very similar to each other. If there's, we had the devil wears Prada, and people were pointing at their shoes, and then we had another one, blue suede shoes, was the one we had at Maddie's Heroes, and people were pointing at their shoes, and the team would yell out, blue suede shoes, like, no. And they couldn't go back and yell out, devil wears Prada, so the person would have to pass, go to the next card, and then continue on and keep going. The good thing is you can pass on the second and third round, so you can kind of go through the cards. Tip for you, on the second and third round, if the first card you pull up is really hard, skip it. Go to the next one. Knock out those easy ones for your team. Get all the easy ones for your team. Leave the hard ones for the other team to get.
And you can't pass in the first round.
Yeah, the first round you have to. Yeah, but you can talk. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the next two rounds you can, and that is a good tip, especially for the last round. Just skip, and then
knock out the easy ones. Grab those because the other team's going to grab them if you don't.
Yep, exactly. That's true.
So there's a little bit of strategy in the game. I think a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
But. I don't play this game competitive. Most of the time, end of the night, I don't care who won the game. I just had a good time playing it. You laugh and joke. You see people acting out and doing silly things. It's so much fun. There is a fourth round you can play in the game.
I was going to mention that too.
Yeah. So there's a fourth round. We usually don't play the fourth round. We just play 3. That's great. The fourth round is the posing phase. So your team closes their eyes, and then you take a pose or whatever, and you say open, and they open their eyes, and they see you in this pose. And then they get one guess, and then you say close your eyes, and then you look at the next card, you take another pose, and that's it. Yeah, exactly. And your team opens their eyes, and hopefully they guess it right based on the pose. No movement or nothing. This is tough though, because what people do is they look at the card, and they go, oh, I know what I'm gonna do, and they say open, and then they move into that position, and they're like, so they can see you moving. And if you were doing something like a tennis player, they can see your hand moving like a tennis player. Like, oh, you got to be completely still before you say open. That's hard to do. So we typically don't play the fourth round in this. We have a couple times, and I think it just drags the game on too long myself. I like it just the 3 rounds.
Yeah, I like the 3 rounds too.
Yeah. That is Jesse's number 1 party game of all time. Time's Up. That was on my short list. I think that was number 12 for me on my list. I love Time's Up also. It's a lot of fun. So there you go. Actually, no, I'm sorry. No, where was Time's Up for me? Time's Up was number 5 for me. I had it, I had written down? Monikers.
Oh.
So Monikers is the shut up and sit down version of basically the same kind of game. It's got different cards in it. It has cards that are more modern for today. It's got like Grumpy Cat and things like that on there. Where Time's Up is all like books and artwork and songs and things like that. I like Monikers myself because I like the modern stuff. Also, each card has a description of what the thing is. It'll tell you what Grumpy Cat is if you don't know what it is. Where this does not. If it says Midnight Rider Paul Revere and you have no clue who Paul Revere is, good luck. You're just going to say, it's some guy that
Isn't it that guy with the pumpkin head and the Sleepy Hollow thing? Is that it? Is that right?
Close. That was close. So there we go. that is our top 10 party games of all time. These are great games. If you love playing games with your family, playing party games, grab some of these. Lots of fun. And there you go. Anything else to add before we wrap up, Jesse?
Nope, just play games. They're fun. They keep your brain placid as you get old. So, yeah, just get out there and just play games. Just don't be afraid to learn games. That's another big thing. Don't be afraid to learn games. Just go out there, have fun with the game. Don't worry about who wins or loses. If you're not strong in a game, it's not going to change your tomorrow, okay? It's just for fun. Just go out there and play some games and kick butt as much as you can in them. So,
This public service announcement brought to you by Jesse.
that's right.
Thanks for watching, guys. Go to gameandparty.com where you'll find links to our podcast and all of our other social media. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, check out our podcast, and you can find us on all of our social media sites on gameandparty.com. See you on the next video.